Warm welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Konstantin, and I'm welcoming you at the Experts Talk Show. Today, I'm honored to introduce leaders of education opinion and leaders of pedagogy from the world. Let me introduce them right now. This is Dr. Abdulla Rasheed Ahmed, Minister of State for Education, Republic of Maldives. Dr. Rasheed, warm welcome.
Thank you.
And Dr. Peter Kant, President of International Confederation of Principals from the United Kingdom. Dr. Kant, warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you.
Thank you for joining today. And today, dear friends, we're communicating about education. With our today's experts, we would like to discuss today's problems and challenges that modern education is facing and the ideas of how to make it better. I would like to begin with you, Dr. Rasheed. Please share with us your opinion. What are the problems and challenges that today's education system is facing in your country and in the world? Please share with us your opinion.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Konstantin. I'm really pleased to be in this platform with Dr. Peter Kent. Really nice to meet him again. To answer your question, what are the challenges here we have in the Maldives and elsewhere in the world? There are definitely plenty of challenges. One thing is a challenge, I can say, normally people have a misconception or wrong conception of what is education and what's the purpose of going to school. Because of wrong definition or wrong purpose of education, everything else goes wrong. For some people, schooling is just producing the result. And the purpose of education is also producing the result. So if that is the aim of schooling, if that is the purpose of education, the real education will be a little bit far away than what is being practiced. For the real education, schools should give priority to providing holistic education, where skills, knowledge, values, and attitude should be given equal importance. But if our aim is just to produce result, a better result, then skills, values, these things are compromised. So for my understanding, the biggest challenge I have seen in many education systems is this. We have to reduce exam-oriented teaching learning process. When we really prepare students for the exam, that is just drilling, doing the past papers repeatedly, without understanding. When students do the rote learning, they would be ready to answer the questions. So ultimately, they would get A's, A stars, and commended distinction, and those things. That doesn't really mean that the child is really ready as an employee, employer, or an entrepreneur. Therefore, this is one challenge. And another challenge is getting qualified professionals for education system. I think many parts of the world education system is not very attracted to many people because people in the education systems are very busy. They are under a lot of pressure, and the schools demand a lot of their time. So they are unable to do the work-life balance. That is one reason people want to leave, and the best people or most talented people are not really choosing education sector as their number one priority. If we really don't have quality teachers, quality principals, definitely the quality of education will never go beyond the quality of educators. Therefore, this is one challenge as well. And as a third thing I can say, when we go for blended learning or flipped classroom, digital technology, online learning is very important. But most of the situation, teachers are not really prepared to teach online. They are prepared to teach physically. But then when they apply the same technique, same methodology in virtual classroom, definitely a lot of gaps and a lot of misunderstanding would be there. So it is a challenge. And another challenge is digital divide. While some students have a device, some students have internet access, and some students don't have. So these are the challenge. Right now, I can say these are the things I want to highlight as challenge in the Maldives, even other places of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed, for your answer. Thank you, sir. I would like to address the same question to you, Dr. Kent. Right now, you're leading a global, probably the biggest global association that brings together the representatives of school principals, organizations from all over the world, where you're discussing actually also the challenges the school leaders are facing. Share with us your opinion. What are, from your point of view, the most challenging challenges in education that we have faced? The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, Konstantin. And it's very interesting hearing those very perceptive, very thoughtful comments from Dr. Rasheed, because actually what I want to share has a lot of overlap. And the thoughts that occurred to me very much reflect those already made by Dr. Rasheed. As has already been mentioned, I'm currently the president of the International Confederation of Principals, and we represent school leadership organizations worldwide. And what we're very conscious of is, firstly, that there is a crisis in recruiting school leaders and school leaders of the highest caliber. I thought I'd share with you some of the questions in a survey we've just put out to our members, which reflect some of the anxieties that leaders have. So, for example, we're asking, have your leaders reported an increase in workload over the past 2 years? A reduction in job satisfaction? Have you seen more people retiring? Are you having difficulty recruiting individuals into leadership roles? Have you had to find extra incentives? Have you needed to look outside the field of education? And I think in all those ways, we get a picture of some of the challenges in education systems around the world of finding the best leaders to come and to lead our schools. And the reason why this particularly matters, I think, has been reflected in those very perceptive comments that have been made already by Dr. Rasheed. Not just leadership, but education across the world faces a really challenging, really significant time. And right at the heart of that is that there's a great deal of pressure just to focus upon things that we can easily measure. Today in England, where I'm based, exam results come out for 18-year-olds. And already there's lots of headlines about it and lots of focus upon the grades and lots of focus upon whether the A grades have gone up and whether they will get into universities and so on. But as we've already considered, there is a danger of just valuing what we can measure easily, like exam results. Whereas some of the values that many of us here watching and accessing this video value perhaps just as highly, equality, tolerance, justice, an ability to think for yourself, an ability to make decisions and to think independently. All of those qualities are essential to education. And yes, exam results definitely do matter, but it's important that they don't become the be-all and end-all of what we're looking to do in schools. But in order to do that, we would argue that you need leaders of the highest possible caliber, who are taking schools forward and who are making sure that the education is broad and balanced and not just focused upon results, and also that it focuses upon issues such as those we've just heard around the digital divide, and upon making the best use of the technological challenges of 21st century education. So we would say that one of the big challenges for the system going forward is, how do we make the environment within schools attractive, yes, to the best quality leaders and also to the best quality teachers as well. And sometimes it's presented as being all about pay, and I suppose pay matters, but actually, from all I'm hearing, it's not really about that. Yes, it matters, but it's not at the front and center. What really matters is creating an environment in our schools where people feel comfortable, where they feel it's an interesting and exciting place to work. I think after the pandemic and all that brought, a lot of people are asking questions about themselves and what they want to do with their lives and how they want to spend it. And it's important that our education systems offer an enjoyable, an interesting, and attractive environment where people think, yes, I'd like to give the best of my life to leading schools, to helping young people become the sort of people that I would like them to become. So that is what I would say is the big challenge facing us going forward, bringing the best people into schools, and particularly the best people in to lead schools.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tan, for your sincere answer. Let me ask you additionally, how to create this environment for pupils to make it safe, to make it enjoyable for studying, to make it interesting. And the other question that I would also like to address after your answer, how to raise these education leaders who would be, leading the schools, will be innovative, will be thinking creatively, will be thinking forward-looking, and work on improvement all the time, both on the educational environment, professionalisms of their colleagues, and move the society forward in terms of development.
Shall I respond to that straight away? Dr. Rasheed may have some comments to make, but I would say on your first point, Konstantin, that school leaders are very important in setting, I suppose, what we would call the culture or the climate that operates within a school. And if we're going to create that sort of education that we're talking about, they play a central role. My own PhD research was into the impact that school leaders have upon the culture, upon the organizations that they lead. And there's no doubt they tend to be the central figures. They set the environment. They create the culture and climate that tends to influence the environment, the atmosphere, as it were, for others. So it's very important for us all to realize that the values we put forward, the way in which we live, the way in which we treat other people, the way in which we model what we want education to be, tends to then set the climate, tends to then set the atmosphere within our organizations. As to that second point, but how do we bring the best people in? In a way, I think it follows on. I think one of the problems at the moment for recruiting leaders and teachers as well is making sure that schools are attractive environments. In England, for example, being in teaching, often people say to me, "Oh, I don't know how you do it. It's a really stressful, really difficult job." Now, I was very fortunate as a leader. I had a wonderful team that I worked with, and I led the same school for 23 years, and it was a wonderful experience, and every day was something I looked forward to. but it was because of the climate within that organization, and it made it a great place to be and a great place to work. And I think that's what we need to bring to our schools. If they're felt to be places where it's very pressurized, or where we're just focusing upon exam results to the exclusion of everything else, then I think inevitably people will start to question if this is really what they want to do and how they want to spend their time.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Rasheed, share with us, please.
Yeah, thank you. After agreeing with Dr. Peter, let me add some more points. One thing is, I believe we should decentralize education. Sometimes education is very much centralized. When education is centralized, it's difficult for principals to bring innovation and creativity. So if we empower them and if we make schools more autonomous, then they will be in a better position to bring creativity and innovation. So that is one thing we can do to make the schools and the education sector more attractive. And another thing is, rather than looking at the result, if we really look at the performance of the school graduates, those who have already graduated that school last 10 years, last 20 years, how are they doing? If they are really well off in life, how much of them have completed higher studies, and what kind of jobs are they doing? By looking at that, if they are doing well, then we can say the school is doing well. Because as Dr. Peter also has mentioned, if we are too much looking at the result, principals and teachers will be always under pressure. Then that makes education sector very much unattractive. In 21st century, we should not control the teaching and learning process. In 21st century, it is very flexible. People have choice in life. For example, if you want to listen a particular song, you don't need to buy the whole album. Now you can just download the song you want to hear or you want to watch. So same thing should happen in the school. Teachers should have choice, students should have choice, and learning should be enjoyable, learning should be fun. Teachers also can be with the students very heavily, and the school principal and everyone. Therefore, flexibility should come as a part of education, and the learning should be enjoyable, learning should be fun. And we should not worry about the content, and we just give up. We should empower the students as well. Teachers can just tell what students should learn and then leave the rest to the students, so they can choose what strategy they can use, whether they read, whether they write, whether they discuss. It's up to them. So when this transformation takes place, everyone involved in education would be happy, including the parents, teachers, principal. So in order to make education sector more attractive, I can say we really need a total transformation. Re-engineering, restructuring is required. Then only education system, education sector will be much more attractive.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. I would like to ask additional question. We've mentioned several times today that education or the school is not only about study, it's not only about passing the exams on the high level. This is also the education environment where pupils, students are not stressed when they're enjoying the study. Let me ask you, what is, from your point of view, the goal of education, the final goal?
Okay, the final goal of education should be every individual prepared for life, according to his or her interest, potential, intelligence. So the result should be just checking whether the child is on the track. That's the part of that. The total weightage should not be given the result, but we have to look at the competency. And many countries now, their curriculum is competency-based curriculum. Therefore, we sometimes don't need to look at the result at all. We can see the development in terms of competencies. So to develop the competency, the skills, knowledge, values, and attitude are required, and we can observe it by seeing the development from the test paper. A test paper cannot really measure the development of the child. Therefore, the goal of education should be, as I said before, prepare the child for the life. In life, different people will be different things. Different people will be good in different things. We should respect all kinds of interest students are having, but sadly, many people value only academic. People believe that if the child is good in academic, yeah, wow. But if the child is good in sports, good in art, good in music, we don't value it. But we should value all different types of skills, different types of interest. I believe that result is also important. But the point is, it should be produced without compromising other aspects of education. And I want to add one more thing, as we are talking about in the school, we should not be exam oriented. This transformation should happen in everywhere. The universities also, when they give the entrance to the student, they also should not look at only the result. They also should check the candidates or applicants' competencies. And also in the job market, they also should not only look at the merit. So there should be a total transformation everywhere. If schools alone cannot bring this change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. Dr. Kant, I would like to address the same question to you about the goal or the purpose of education, because why, also, like from my point of view, this question is very important, because in some studies that we had in Ukraine, well, you've mentioned earlier about the environment, school environment, healthy school environment, both, I mean, not only physically, but spiritually healthy. There was a study that in Ukraine, about 93% of school graduates, they have problems with health, and not always physically. In most cases, these are some kind of mental disorders connected with stresses or with pressure because of, exams, lots of like tests that they need to pass before they graduate from school, and, will have a good score in order to apply for a better university. But still, if we take into account that school is not only about tests, passing exams, what is or what should be the purpose or the goal of education? Share with us your opinion, sir.
Yes, I completely agree, and would very strongly endorse those earlier comments from Dr. Rasheed. If you ask someone in England about the quality of their education, very often the first thing they'll do is quote their exam results to you, which, whilst obviously that, yes, of course that matters, and of course it's relevant, in the end it doesn't tell you about how well educated they are. It just tells you about one aspect of it. I would argue that in the end, education has to be about enabling a person to fulfill their potential, to put them in a place where they're able to become everything that they've got the potential to become. And in order to do that, there has to be a much broader, a more rounded experience. And as you've suggested just now, Konstantin, at times a less stressful experience. On results day here in England, there'll be a lot of celebration with those results, and that's fantastic. But there's been a lot of stress in the build-up to it, and I think we need to look again at the ways in which some of our systems put young people in very stressful environments, and that stress, as we've said earlier, tends to spill over into the adults, into professionals working within the environments as well. They feel the same stress. So how do we focus our education more upon enabling young people to become all that they have the potential to be, and less upon just achieving a set of statistics, a set of targets that we've set for ourselves? I think that point made by Dr. Rasheed earlier is a very strong one about looking at what they go on to achieve in 20 to 30 years' time. But as you've also suggested, Konstantin, it's also about the attitudes that our young people go on to show, and their ability to engage in and to play a constructive part in society, the balance and the tolerance that they're able to show. Now, these things aren't always easy to measure. You can't just do a quick survey and there we are. We've measured what a broad and a balanced and a fulfilled person someone is. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking to achieve it. And part of the challenge for all of us working in education, I think over the next 5 to 10 years, is focusing upon these broader values that really matter, and not just saying, okay, well, the period after the pandemic is just about getting our exam results back up to where they were before the pandemic. And at times that's how it can feel, and the pressure that's created for young people and for adults is one of the reasons why there's challenges around recruitment and so on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khan. Dr. Rasheed, you've mentioned today several times about the values, and that school is not only, preparing students for the graduation and and going to the university, but about 20, maybe even more already years ago, we've become not just a planet. We've become, as people are saying, a global village, when people are connected, become very close to each other. From your point of view as an educator, what should be the values, or what are the foundations the school should prepare the students to live in the world that we call a global village, where there are people of many nationalities, of many languages, religious affiliations, and other things? What are these values that the school should raise?
Yes. You have rightly mentioned we are living in a global village. The good example is, see the situation now. You are in Ukraine and I'm in the Maldives, and Dr. Peter Kent is in UK, but still we are talking each other. So that's the real example that we are living in a global village. Kind of values that we should inculcate includes we should accept the difference. We should understand that different people belong to different culture, different race, different nationality. Their culture is different. All these things they should understand. So they should have high level of tolerance to work with diverse or in a diverse workforce. And they should understand that they really need to have different levels and different types of citizenship. For example, their country's national citizenship, and also they should have a global citizenship. In order to get the global citizenship, they should be qualified for many things, just like what we are talking about: acceptance, understand, mutual respect, all these things. If they don't have these values, then they will find it difficult to work with other people. So we have to develop values like values related to themselves, values relating to community, environment, values relating to globalization, for everything. So education system should not be separate. Education, values, skills, it should not be separate. It should go together. Now the problem in the education system is we compromise the values. When we compromise the values, when students graduate in school education or university education, they are not really ready to work in the workplace or be a citizen of a global community. I can say because of this reason, many times employers find it difficult to work with them. We are not saying that every student is an employee. They can be employers, but for any reason, the required values are very important. If we take a practical example, a computer system would not be functioning well if there is no antivirus. So antivirus is required. Like that, for human being, the antivirus is the value. If we don't have a value system, very easily we will be distracted and we will be very easily going out of the proper course of action. Therefore, values should not be considered that something that is secondary content or knowledge is primary. No, it is inseparable. It should go together. Then only our school graduates and university graduates will be really ready to live in this global village. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. Dr. Kent, also would like to ask you the question about the values. In order to become a good global citizen, what are these universal values that we need to share in order to live in this world peacefully together? Share with us your opinion, sir.
I would very strongly reinforce those list of values that Dr. Rasheed has just mentioned. Tolerance, accepting the other person's point of view, being willing to think independently, considering what is right, on a sort of set of moral values before taking action. And I would say the role of the school, you can have lessons in these things, but sometimes that can feel rather artificial and rather forced. Much more effective and much more fundamental is if the school creates an environment, creates a culture where those values are lived out, so that day by day, both the children and the adults who work within the school see this being put into practice in the relationships that are developed between the children and between the adults, and between the different groups of adults working within the environment. We all know in our own lives, it's one thing to tell people what to do, but it's much, much more powerful if we live it out ourselves. And I've certainly found as a leader, if you put things into practice, that's what people notice, and that's what has an impact upon the people that you're leading. So, as it were, schools and educational institutions need to become living organisms that model these values of tolerance and inclusion and accepting other people rather than seeking to bully. And if that is put into practice, then I think that's the best way to have a very profound impact upon the lives of young people going forward. They want to be like that because they've seen it themselves. They've seen, as it were, the education institution as an extended family that has a powerful set of values. And they then will go off and model them in their future lives and in their own family lives and in the contribution they make to society.
I like that very much, the comparison with an extended family. That's very interesting. And tell me, please, and of course, to the international audience that will be watching us, in order to solve the problems and challenges that we today have in the education system, how to solve them, what we need, whom we need, what kind of specialists we need to invite to become like the experts or advisory board of how to overcome this problem successfully. Because on the global level, we're pretty much facing the same problems. What we need to solve them? What would be your advices, please?
I'll give a few initial thoughts. I suppose I would say it's a very broad question, so probably none of us have got the single answer.
I would like to add that this is a platform for communication, and why, for example, the Creative Society platform or the Creative Society project is becoming more and more popular all over the world, because this is the platform where we are uniting people, where we get together in order to exchange opinion, not to quarrel with each other, but to exchange opinion and truly looking for the solution together. Because like it was mentioned during our today conversation, that we've become a global village. We've become, whether we admit that or not, but we've become an extended family where we are so much dependent on each other. And probably the best way to solve these problems, we need to, again, get together and look for the solutions together, because each of us has some skills, knowledge, competences, experience, ideas. Let's share with us. Let's share together of how we can make it better together for each other. Dr. Ken, share with us your please.
Yes, and I think, Konstantin, I think you've touched on one of the key points, that it needs to be groups coming together. Obviously, I particularly work with leaders, but I'm conscious that you couldn't just say to a group of leaders, right, okay, you address it, you come up with it, because it needs also to be the perspectives of teachers. It needs to be the perspectives of students as well. One of the things my organisation is looking at a great deal at the moment is the power of student leadership and the way in which students can bring a considerable creativity and imagination to problem solving themselves. And I think part of the key to this is bringing the groups together to learn from one another. In my own country, one of our great problems is that education is very politicized. So you tend to get one political party having a set of very strong, quite dogmatic ideas, perhaps, about education. And then when they lose power, the next group will come in and they'll have a different set of ideas. So they'll make those changes. And it means that education tends to go through quite sudden changes and quite sudden shifts. And one of the big things that people are calling for here is a 20-year plan. So we can plan and model steadily and methodically, and that all of us, all of these different stakeholders, as it were, everyone who's part of that extended family you just mentioned, can come together and share our perspectives and, as it were, shape a solution together. So something that's shared, something that's less politicized, and something that gives, as you have said, a willingness from all of us to listen to one another and to bring those different perspectives, teachers, pupils, leaders, of course, parents as well, and of course, policymakers, of course, government, but all of us sitting down together rather than, as it were, one group talking at the others and giving a set of orders to them. It needs to be much more a dialogue and an opportunity to think and to learn from one another.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khan. Dr. Rasheed, we would like to hear your opinion. Share with us, please.
Dr. Peter Kent has mentioned very good points. So I totally agree with him. Let me add a few more points to what Dr. Peter Kent has just mentioned. One thing to change, we should identify what's the problem in the system. In order to identify this, one thing we should do is let's ask the employers what they really need from school graduates or university graduates, what they expect from them. What's the gap? What's the gap? So they would say, we really need this skill from them. We really need this kind of attitude or values from them. Then we can check whether our students really possess these things when they graduate. That's one thing we can do. And we can ask from the parents how they observe their kids, their children at home or in the community, and what they really expect. And also we can ask from community leaders, the community in general, what they expect from a school graduate, from a university graduate. So that's one exercise. Dr. Peter Kent has mentioned this already. We have to ask the stakeholders' views, their perspectives. What should we change? So the school leaders, policymakers should accept there is a need to change. Unless we accept it, nothing else will happen. So the first thing is we have to accept that we really need to bring a change. Without accepting, we can't bring any change. I think change is always important, and change is the most difficult thing to bring. There is an English saying which goes, if you do what you did, you will get what you got. So repeatedly people are doing the same thing, and they are talking that we are doing this and it doesn't work, and it's not, we ask the teachers to do this, and teachers say we ask our students to do this, but nothing work well, and people are frustrated. But then we are not bringing any change. If we don't, education is a system. If we put the same input, if we have the same process, definitely output will be same. So we are expecting to see the different output, but our input is same and our process is same, and then we are waiting for the different output. That will not happen. Therefore, we should believe that we need a change. Then we bring a change. It's the input and process should change. Then we can see the output in a different way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasheed. Thank you. You interestingly mentioned about identifying the problems, and here I would like to add that we are preparing for the new international forum, which is going to take place on November 12th this year. And one of the topics that we are going to discuss during the forum is education and society. And in order to identify the problems actually that we are having in the education system all over the world, we have developed a questionnaire which has been right now interpreted, almost done, into 27 languages. Unfortunately, Maldives language is not among them, but if that's possible, we would like to ask you to help to translate it into Maldives and get the opinion from the citizens of Maldives. But still, it will be in at least, I think it will be more languages. Right now, it has been interpreted, like I said, into 27 languages. And we would like to ask you kindly to share that questionnaire within your professional networks, students, parents, teachers, colleagues, to get the opinion from people, and of course, from the leaders of education, opinion of what are these problems, to identify them together. And then when we know these problems, we can get together and try to do the brainstorming of how to solve them. Because education is actually a sphere where, we need specialists from many, many fields, not only people with a diploma of, a teacher, but also psychologists, people who are, working with many, many other fields. Dr. Kent, would you like to add something?
I think it's been a very rich very powerful discussion that we've had. And what has struck me actually is the level of agreement between the three of us. And I think what we're sensing is an emerging global consensus that education has to be about more than just a set of results. But that in order to deliver it, we need the right people doing it and the right set of approaches, and that it needs to be much more about a dialogue between all of the different parts of the education system. I think it's been a very powerful and rich discussion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kent. And to continue actually the dialogue about education and how to make it better together, we would like to ask you to recommend 2 or 3 people or your colleagues or somehow connected with the education with whom we can continue this dialogue about education and how to make it better. Exchanging opinions, maybe we will not always agree with each other, but still that's important also for the process when we exchange opinion and listen to each other. We would like to ask you to recommend 2 or 3 people we can contact on your behalf and continue this conversation. Also, if you would like to lead the conversation, you are more than welcome to join the Creative Society project as a host already and lead this conversation with leaders of education opinion from other countries. That's really interesting. This is a truly human platform when we can get together and talk, regardless of any barriers. Just talk, listen to each other, and do something that will be valuable for our human society. Dear colleagues, dear friends, I'm very much thankful to you for today's conversation. And if you would like to say closing words, the floor is yours.
I would just add, before passing over to Dr. Rasheed, that I think we've seen in our discussion today that education is about so much more than just a set of results. Education is about helping people to become all that they have the capacity, the potential to be. And that's what makes being part of schools, being part of that process, such a privilege and so exciting. And one of the things we all need to work for over the coming years is bringing the right people into the system to do that. Because to have that opportunity to shape young people's lives and to give them that broader and that wider perspective is surely one of the most wonderful jobs in the world. And it's important that our schools have that atmosphere and climate within them, that they become places that foster young people and foster also the best teachers and leaders to want to come and work with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Rasheed, please.
Okay, thank you. As I said before, I am really pleased to be with Dr. Peter Kent. So he's really internationally known figure and really an expert. So to listen his views and share my views with him and with Dr. Constantine. So really pleased to be here. And for your information, in the Maldives, English is widely spoken. So when your questionnaire is in English, so that is enough for the Maldives, because in all our schools, government school, international school, the medium of instruction is English. So English is widely used. And as Dr. Peter Kent mentioned, in UK also today exam result came out. Same thing is happening in the Maldives. Because our students also do Cambridge O-level, so the result is out and most of schools did very well, and I congratulate those who produced the result. We are not saying result is not important, result is important, but without compromising other aspects of education. So I just want to highlight it. So we believe that education system will be transformed by active engagement, active participation of every stakeholders, including international exam bodies. They also should think about how to assess the students, their terminal examination. How could they include values and skills and test the students in different dimensions rather than checking their knowledge, and checking the knowledge has no validity for 21st century, since knowledge is everywhere. Knowledge is in our fingertip.
Thank you very much. Thank you, dear friends. That is all for today, and we would truly love to have you among us as the hosts already of the next interview. So we are kindly asking you to share with us the context of people you would like to invite for the conversation, and speak with them, other friends who would love to share their opinion of how to make the education system better. Thank you very much once again for today's conversation, and looking forward to see you again in the next Expert Talk shows. Thank you.
Thank you.